Tears of a Golden Heart, Shadow versus Braja. Braja once lost his job. He came to work in an online travel agency in Mumbai. The owner of this travel portal had two properties. The owner asked Braja to stay in his other building and set up the entire online system, including computers and other necessary equipment. As Braja entered the building, he felt an eerie and negative energy surrounding him. He noticed the lock was broken when he looked at his flat door. It seemed something had happened and someone had forcefully entered the apartment. Still, Braja chose to ignore that incident and continued living in the flat. For the first few days, everything seemed fine. However, one night, Braja began hearing strange noises. He decided to ask his neighbors in the morning what had happened. The following day, when Braja decided to inquire about the strange noises, he realized that no one else in the entire building had heard or seen anything unusual. In fact, except for him, no one had been living in the building for more than 2 years. A few days later, when Braja decided to discuss the matter with the owner of the travel portal, the owner seemed reluctant to address the issue and instead began diverting the conversation towards other business matters. So Braja became engrossed in handling the online portal's flight and bus bookings, as well as managing customer calls and other tasks related to the business. Everything was going smoothly, and as Braja settled into his routine, the owner's brother and friends also began frequenting the building, often coming to his flat. Braja would cook meals like dal and sabzi every day, and he would share his food with them if they happened to visit. One day, the owner's brother's friends suggested making chicken biryani, so Braja prepared chicken biryani and they all had their meal together. Afterwards, everyone returned to their homes and Braja prepared to sleep. He was in that fleeting moment between being half awake and half asleep when he heard a man's voice shouting directly into his ear, startling him. Upon hearing the strange voice, Braja quickly got up, turned on the lights, and checked the door. It was still locked. When he went to the kitchen, he discovered that all the leftover chicken and the kitchen utensils were scattered everywhere, as if there had been a chaotic disturbance. Thinking it might be a mouse, Braja went back to sleep. However, the same strange noises and the sound of utensils being thrown around resumed. This time, Braja left the lights on and managed to get some sleep. Thinking it might be a mouse, Braja went back to sleep. However, the same strange noises and the sound of utensils being thrown around resumed. This time, Braja left the lights on and managed to get some sleep. The next day, Braja realized that telling the owner wouldn't help as he seemed dismissive of the situation. So he decided to take matters into his own hands and thought he would leave for his hometown of Shillong after finishing some work. The owner's friends returned that night and they cooked chicken again. They all ate together, and after they left, Braja locked the door and went to sleep. The strange events recurred that night, but Braja began to see a shadowy figure this time. This shadowy presence started to attack Braja, and when Braja tried to defend himself, it fled, leaving marks on his feet. Braja initially thought it might be his imagination, but after a few days, he discovered visible signs of someone having physically harmed him. The next day, Braja realized that something was seriously wrong. He called his wife and discussed the matter over the phone. As he was lying in bed talking to his wife on the phone that night, he heard the same eerie noises again, which were now audible even to his wife. The next day, Braja decided he had had enough and was determined to teach a lesson to whoever or whatever was causing these disturbances. He purchased items for a ritual and brought them home. Since Braja had been living alone for years, he had learned various practices like meditation and even some tantra and mantra techniques. That night, Braja used tantra and mantra to confront the shadowy presence as if they were engaged in a battle. Eventually, the shadowy figure in the room ceased to appear and the strange noises ended. The following day, even more terrifying and intense noises began emanating from another part of the building. the building's watchman approached Braja in the morning and asked if he had been making those sounds. Braja responded, "My room is on the fourth floor and the noises are coming from the seventh floor, so how could it be me?" By now, Braja had come to a complete understanding that this was not a human doing. On the days when he didn't create protective barriers with mantras and tantras, the entity would enter his room and cause disturbances. However, when he did create these barriers, the entity would make noises in other parts of the building outside his room. One day, Braja's wife called him and advised him to return home as the situation seemed to be taking a toll on him. She even sent him money to book a train ticket. However, Braja decided to try one more day without resorting to mantra and tantra. That evening, Braja placed the chicken in his room, knowing that the entity was becoming increasingly disturbed and troubling the security guards. He wanted to see what the entity was capable of doing. After placing the chicken in the kitchen, Braja stood outside his room for some time. Suddenly, the door to his room closed from the inside and became impossible to open. He called the owner, who then summoned the locksmith. However, before entering the room, Braja discreetly sprinkled the path with his mantra and tantra substances. As the locksmith left, he told Braja, "You are fearless staying in this building alone." But the locksmith had no idea about the true nature of Braja's experiences. The owner's brother and friends came again that night and Braja cooked chicken. They all enjoyed the meal and then left. Indeed, the locksmith remained unaware of the reality of Braja's life. That night, the owner's brother and his friends visited again and Braja cooked chicken for them. They all relished the meal and left without an inkling of the strange occurrences Braja had been dealing with. That day, Braja was determined to teach a lesson to whatever entity was causing trouble. He continued his tantra and mantra practices throughout the night. The entity retaliated aggressively, but Braja fought back with his mantra and tantra. For a while, the entity displayed formidable strength, but gradually it weakened and its aggressive sounds turned into pleas for mercy. Finally, it disappeared completely, and Braja removed the protective barriers of mantra. That day, Braja's face was illuminated with a sense of accomplishment. He realized that he could overcome any challenge, and everything he had learned in life had not been in vain. He felt content and happy because in the morning he was going back home by train. Braja booked a taxi in the morning and arrived at the Lokmanya Tilak Terminus (LTT) train station. After a 4-day journey, he boarded the train and reached his family. He showed his wife the black spots on his body that were because of the entity's attack, and in a few days, all the marks and stains disappeared. Braja decided to stay in Shillong, as the place held more meaning to him than the job with an uncertain salary and the haunting experiences he had faced. He chose to work as a freelance developer and began a new chapter of his life, content and happy to be with his family. If you enjoyed my content and the story, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow my YouTube channel, Star Vizion. Your support means a lot to me. Copyright notice ISBN 9789334206401. Tears of a Golden Heart is a work of fiction created by Vikrom Sharma. The characters, events, and dialogues in this story are entirely the product of the author's imagination and are intended solely for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to actual events, places, or persons, living or deceased, is purely coincidental. All rights to this work, including its characters, storyline, and text, are reserved by the author. No part of this publication may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or any other information storage or retrieval system, without prior written permission from the author.